to better know who we are today and to where we're going in the future, we need to look past, not dwell in the past, but to look in the past to see where we've come from. So Larry has a passion about history and a passion about photography, and he's good at both. So it is my pleasure to ask Larry to come up now. He's going to share with us a journey through time to guide us through some years of where the church has been. Larry?
Most of you know me as Larry the usher, Larry the soundboard guy, Larry the guy that stands in the back, makes sure everything runs smooth. But for the last 3 or 4 years, 4 years, we had 170th anniversary 4 years ago. I love the history of the church. It's a great history. So I'm going to share it with you today, real quick. But today we're celebrating this building, 100 years old. Wednesday, the 16th, 100 years ago, they laid the cornerstone out here. So that's why I wanted to have it this weekend, to celebrate this building. Not the church, but this building, the Bethel. It was called Bethel, like the pastor said. We're going to start off back when John Weinbrenner, who was born in 1797, and he died in 1860. He was born in New Jersey. He studied at Dickinson College, and he was the pastor of the German Reformed Church in Harrisburg. Well, in 1925, they didn't like the way he was preaching because he was an evangelistic preacher, and they didn't like that. So they locked the doors on him, couldn't get in. So him and about 100 of his followers went down to the Susquehanna River and had a church meeting. From that, he went out to the communities around Harrisburg and started preaching. And he came here to Elizabethtown in 1826. And he preached in schools, people's houses, even some taverns, or anywhere he could preach. And he got a following. Maybe a dozen people that were, really following him. In 1837, the church was organized. So it took a little while to organize the church. The first church was built in 1843, and it was up on East High Street, where it was a church. Now it's a reuse-it shop or something. I forget what it is. But that's where we originally built a church. And that was in 1843. And Elder David Maxwell was the first pastor, our first pastor. So 10 years later, in April of 53, the person that owned the land noticed that we did not have a deed for the land. So he sold it out from under us. He sold the church out from under us. And he sold it to the United Brethren. So that was in April of 53. So they came down here on this property and built another church. And it was dedicated in December of that year. So they built it quick. We have some pictures of it there. I love the pictures of this building. I would love to have seen it. It doesn't look like it's real big, but it's a beautiful church. So it took them 6 months to build that church and start up again. Weinbrenner preached that Sunday, and that was that building was the second Bethel. They called them Bethels, and the scripture that the pastor read. Let's see, which one was that? Oh, the one in Haggai. It says that the present building was better than the past building. So I'm not sure what kind of building they had up there on East High Street, but this building was better. That's what he preached on. So we can also say that for this church when they put this church up. It's better. We just keep progressing. So they built this church in 53, and in 1888 they renovated it for $2,500. They paid the carpenters 17 cents an hour. The painters were 16 cents an hour. Unbelievable. In 96, the electric company came in and wanted to put electric lights in the church. So they wanted 23 lights. They said it would cost $35, and it would cost us $28.83 a year to put the lights in. Church didn't like that. They refused it. They counter-offered for $30 for the installation, and 4 men would help, and $20 a year for the first year. So in 96 is when they first got lights in the church. So in 1914, the church bought the house right next to the church here for $1,500. At that same time, they were running out of room at this church, so they decided to take up an offering to start a building fund. I think they got $200 and some. So they kept raising money for it, and in 1916, they started building this building here. They had half the money already to build this church. So it was dedicated in 1918. It took 2 years to build this beautiful church, and we're talking, everything in here. Stained glass windows, everything. It had to be a beautiful church back in the day. So the cost of the church, $43,000 to build this church with stained glass windows and everything. That was back in 1916. In 1937, the house they bought next door, they sold to the borough, where the borough moved it and put Washington Street in, extended Washington Street from across the street. So that was in 1937, and at the same time, they bought the organ. So maybe from the proceeds of the sale, they bought the organ, but the organ came in 1937. This is a picture of the church before we got the organ, and the next one, Jim, or the colored picture, they're back the other way. Yeah, that one there. You see there was choir members up top here. That's what it originally was for, but fire marshal come in and said, can't have that. Stairs going down, if there was to be a fire or something, it just wouldn't work. So that was the original choir loft back then. In 1962, we dedicated the educational building. The cost of that was $193,000. Furnishings were $18,000. Now we have some pictures there. Maybe some of you out here were in that picture. I think Landis might have been, and a couple other ones, and Bonnie and my wife Jackie, and yeah, I can see them over here in the corner. I did find them on that picture with a magnifying glass, though. So I'm glad somebody took that picture back then. That's neat, trying to identify people that I remember. So that was built in 62, and in 86, the Black Horse Hotel, which was right next, and you can see to the left of the picture our church, the educational building. There was just an alleyway through there. So the church in 86 bought that. They demolished it. They paved the parking lot that we have out there now, and that was a total cost of $115,000. So that is a quick history of our church here, starting back with John Weinbrenner up until today. So there's a historical room back here. If you've never been there, stop in and look at some of the stuff we have. We put some pictures out, and you're welcome to look at them, and if you have any questions, I'm free to answer the questions. So that's the history. Thank you.